Welcome to week number 11 of the Zaxby's High School Football Preview Show, live from the Hometown Radio Network studios here on Shakertown Road. If you drive by, honk and wave, and if you honk loud enough, maybe you'll hear your honk come across the airwaves. We're live here at Fort Radio, on Shakertown Road, where this show is broadcast live, and happy to be aboard and talking high school football with you here in the second round of the high school football playoffs, and it's an exciting night. I mentioned this on social media, on Twitter, or X, or whatever. This, to me, is one of the most underrated high school sports weekends of the year. The reason is because this is when kind of the uncertainty of the RPI kicks in. Now, the RPI doesn't change for teams in the playoffs, but after this week is when the teams start playing based on their RPI. And so, there's a lot of scoreboard watching, I feel like, for people around the state wondering, checking scores. Oh, this team is winning. Look where their RPI is. That means we would play them. Oh, this team is winning, so they would go here and play, right? And you can't really tell until all the games are final. You can't look at the bracket and say, oh, we know that Boyle County, or we know that Danville is going to play this team, or we know that Lincoln County is going to play this team, because the bracket switches in the third round after tonight based on the RPI. So this is a lot of fun. This night's a lot of fun for me because I just get to look at, just start searching on Twitter, different scores. Oh, well, this one is a score that Boyle County fans should be looking at because if this happens, they would play this team based on this RPI. And all that starts basically tonight after the second round of these high school football playoffs conclude. At HTR Joe on Twitter, if you have comments, concerns, questions, or vicious remarks, we'd love to get you on the show at HTR Joe on Twitter. We are live from the Hometown Radio Network studios, and this show brought to you by Zaxby's Chicken on the Bypass in Danville. I went by there earlier this afternoon, and I got one of their new sauces. Or I think they've had this sauce, but they just started using it as a boneless and bone-in chicken sauce. It's their sweet Asian sauce that they use for their Asian sensation salad, but now they put it on the wings. And I think it's called Sweet Asian Glaze. And I loved it. It was awesome. The Zaxby's was extra delicious today. They made it with love and tenderness or something I don't know what it was, but the Zaxby's hit the spot unlike, it does every week, but unlike it ever has before. It was just, I don't know what it was. Maybe it's because I just picked something different, and I just loved it. So go by Zaxby's today. Tell them how much you love the high school football preview show, and try out that new Sweet Asian Glaze on what I got, the boneless wings and things. And appreciate Zaxby's and their sponsorship of the high school football preview show. There is a lot to talk about tonight. All right, first of all, we do have... we know Boyle County has won. They're playing next Friday. So we're going to start off the show talking about, real quickly, the Class 4A playoffs and who Boyle County could potentially play next week. And if Lincoln County fans are listening, and I'm sure we have some Lincoln County fans listening, I want you all to tune in as well, because at the end of that discussion, I'm going to give you a situation to where, based on if certain teams win, that Lincoln County could actually play a home game next week. And I'm going to give you that situation. So we're talking about what would happen if certain teams win. Boyle County would play this team based on this, or this team based on this. So it'll give Boyle County fans, something to watch and listen to and listen for and all that tonight. I'll also give you what Lincoln County needs to happen for them to host a home playoff game. We'll also talk about the Class 2A playoffs, but I'm going to do that at the end of the Danville-Somerset discussion. That is a big game tonight. The Admirals heading down to Somerset. Their longest, really most bitter rival for the longest time. This will be the 87th all-time matchup between Danville and Somerset. It'll be the third one that Danville's played Somerset, with Clay Clevenger as the head coach down there at Somerset. And it's in the playoffs. And it's not the first time that they've played in the playoffs, but it's the first time that Danville, I feel like at least there's a chance They played Somerset the last 2 years, but we knew there wasn't a chance they were going to beat Somerset. Now there's a little more confidence around the Admiral program. So we'll talk about Danville, Somerset. That's going to be a fun game tonight. We'll have that game right here on the Hometown Radio Network on 103.9 FM WHIR. Gunnar Floyd and Tim Holland will have the play-by-play call of that one. So we'll talk about that. And again, at the end of that discussion, we'll talk the Class 2A playoffs and what would happen if Danville beats Somerset tonight. And then maybe talk a little Lincoln County and Corbin as well, just depending on how much time we have left. But we also have the 2025 championship reveal of the high school fantasy football draft, brought to you by Danville Office Equipment. It has never come down to 3 teams in a single week, and it is a crazy end to what has been a bizarre high school fantasy football draft season. Radio Rick has had a chance to clinch it the last 2 weeks, despite being one of the lowest scorers in the league all year long. So we'll see if he can clinch. If not, then it basically comes down to Matt and myself and the winner of that game. So there's a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss on the second round of the high school football playoffs on this Friday evening. At HTR Joe on Twitter. Let me know what you're thinking as you head out to the games on this Friday evening. At HTR Joe on Twitter. We'll step aside. We will come back and we'll see what's going on, first of all, in the Class 4A high school football playoffs. That'll be the first topic. We'll discuss who Boyle County may play and how can Lincoln County get a home playoff game. Then we'll talk Danville Somerset on the high school football preview show, brought to you by Zaxby's.
I started a joke, which started the whole world crying, but I didn't see.
Why buy at Danville Office Equipment? You'll save up to 60% off the MSP on the items you use in your office every day. DOE will ship your order free of charge within 75 miles of any of our locations. We have over 30,000 items, including office supplies, furniture, printing, copiers, printers, fax machines, computers, and business cards. This is owner Scott Bottoms. If you're not satisfied with your order, return it for full credit. We really appreciate your business. Danville Office Equipment, also in Somerset and Lebanon.
Zaxby's is more than just a humble chicken joint. It's a humble chicken joint with the best sauces in the world. See, at Zaxby's, you don't just get their famous hand-breaded chicken fingers, fried to golden perfection with that flavor you know and love. At Zaxby's, you get the sauce. Dip, dunk, and drizzle with your choice of 12 different sauces like Zax sauce, tongue torch, and hot honey mustard. So if you want a whole lot of sauce, you need to find yourself a Zaxby's. Who's got the sauce?
Zaxby's.
This is Steve Bertram. Join me weekday mornings for the latest sports scores and news on the Hometown Radio Network, WHIR FM and AM, WHBN FM and AM, Z105 WRNZ FM, and online at hometownlive.net. Stay tuned to Hometown Radio stations for live coverage of local games, UK games, and NASCAR racing. It's all on the Hometown Radio Network, your place to go for sports news and live broadcasts.
Let's go! This Saturday,
we're going to play Kentucky football.
The Cats are hungry for another victory, and they're ready to do some bird hunting. Tennessee Tech Golden Eagles and your Kentucky Wildcats.
The pregame show starts this Saturday at 11:30 with kickoff at 1:30.
It's all right here on your home for the Cats and the hits is WRNZ FM Z105.
Hi, this is Matt Jones from Kentucky Sports Radio. You're listening to Central Kentucky's only high school football tailgating show, the High School Football Preview Show with Joe Mathis on the Hometown Radio Network.
Look at there, Matt. Kentucky, I forgot they play tonight. Actually, Kentucky's playing Eastern Illinois tonight. They tip off in 44 minutes. So if you want to dial dance back and forth, we do have UK and Eastern Illinois on Z105 WRNZ FM tonight. Thanks to Boyle County, who played Thursday night, played last night. And we get to have UK on this Friday night on Z105. Obviously, had Boyle County played on a Friday night, that would have preempted the UK broadcast. And so we do get UK there on Friday night tonight on Z105. Speaking of Boyle County, they are into the next round of the high school football playoffs. They move on to the quarterfinal round now. And if you pull up the bracket and you look at the bracket on the Kentucky High School Athletic Association website, you'll see Boyle County 42, Wayne County nothing, and it certainly appears as if Boyle County would take on the winner of Corbin and Lincoln County, but that is not the case necessarily. Now, there is a chance they could play Corbin next round, but there's also a chance they may not play Corbin next round. We know that Boyle County will play next Friday. The only question is who they'll play. So after tonight's games, there are going to be 8 teams left in the playoffs in each class. From Class 1A through Class 6A, there will be 8 teams left in each class. 4 in the top half of the bracket, which is the western side of the state. 4 in the bottom half of the bracket, which is the eastern side of the state. So Boyle County, just based on how many 4A teams there are and where they're located, is based in the bottom half of the bracket. They are considered an Eastern Kentucky team just based on geography. Now, I want you to listen to this conversation. Forget completely about the top half of the bracket. For the sake of this illustration, they don't exist. There's just the 4 teams in the bottom half of the bracket. That's how the KHSA does it. The RPI kicks in next Friday. Boyle County, being the number 1 overall RPI team in the bracket, regardless of Eastern or Western, they're number 1 overall in the state for RPI. They would play next Friday the lowest remaining RPI team in the bottom half of the bracket. Remember, I told you, forget the top half exists. It's just the 4 teams in the bottom half of the bracket. All right? Now, the KHSA separates them by halves for a reason, because they don't want a situation where, and this could actually very well happen if they were to do the entire state, all 8 teams RPI-wise next round, where you would have something like Paducah-Tillman potentially playing Ashland Blazer or something like that in the third round of the playoffs. You got a 6.5 or whatever 7-hour road trip for a high school football game. And yes, you could say, well, why couldn't that happen in the semifinal round? I guess it could, but at least it gives you one more round to potentially knock a road trip out like that before you hit the semifinals. So now the question is, out of the 4 teams that would be left in Boyle County side of the bracket, who do we think would be the lowest remaining team left in the RPI that Boyle County may play? And it's kind of hard to tell right now because there are some really good matchups in Class 4A in this round in Boyle County side of the bracket. The Rebels have already beaten Wayne County. They're in. The other 3 games tonight in Boyle County side of the bracket: Highlands versus Ashland Blazer, Johnson Central versus Covington Catholic, and Corbin versus Lincoln County. So let's just start doing some hypotheticals here. Let's say that the hypothetical favorites win every game in the bottom half of the bracket. So what I'm saying by that is, let's say the home teams win. That would mean Highlands, Johnson Central, Corbin, and Boyle County would be the 4 winners to advance to the next round. Now, Lincoln County's actually ranked ahead of Corbin in the RPI, so I guess technically that would be considered a quote-unquote upset, but Corbin is the home team, so we're saying for this illustration that the home teams win. Boyle County, being the number 1 ranked RPI team, would play the lowest ranked RPI team among those left. That would be Corbin. So Corbin would indeed come to Boyle County next week. However, that's just an illustration where all the favorites win. Out of all the teams left at this point in the bottom half of the bracket, the lowest ranked RPI team that's playing tonight would be Ashland Blazer. So if Ashland Blazer would have beat Highlands tonight, then it would be no doubt Ashland Blazer would come to Boyle County next week because they are the lowest remaining team out of any of the teams in the bottom half of the bracket. However, there's also the illustration where a Covington Catholic win over Johnson Central and a Highlands win over Blazer would put Covington Catholic coming to Boyle County next week. So there's so many different illustrations where one win could change everything and could change the trajectory of which team comes to Boyle County next week. And then there's this situation that Lincoln County fans, I would assume, would be rooting for. First of all, Lincoln County would have to beat Corbin tonight. Lincoln County has never beaten Corbin in school history. They're 0-5 all-time versus Corbin. But let's say Lincoln County beats Corbin tonight. Let's say Blazer beats Highlands and Covington Catholic beats Johnson Central. That would give Boyle County a home game next week against Ashland Blazer. Because remember, I already mentioned Blazer's the lowest RPI team left. It would also give Lincoln County a home game because they have the higher RPI ranking over Covington Catholic. It would make Covington Catholic travel to Lincoln County. It would cause Ashland Blazer to travel to Boyle County. So, yes, there is a situation where Lincoln County could host a home playoff game next week despite being on the road the week before tonight at Corbin. A lot of different things. Again, this is why, to me, this is a really fun week. You know, like Boyle County, who played last night, you could say they've had 8 days to prepare now, or they'll have 8 days to prepare for next week's games. But they won't know who they're playing until the final bell whistles and the final plays made out of all these games. So they can't really prepare for anything until they know who they play. And they won't know who they play until all the games are done. Fun night of high school football tonight. We'll have to see what happens. At HDR Joe on Twitter, if you have any comments, concerns, questions, or vicious remarks. I do have the Class 2A situation as well, with Danville playing tonight in the Class 2A playoffs. I am going to leave that for after this conversation, because let's hop into Danville and Somerset tonight. Danville heads to Somerset. I mentioned the 87th all-time matchup between Danville and Somerset. Danville leads the series 54-29 and 3 ties. Though things get a lot tighter if you look at just playoff matchups. This is the 15th matchup all time versus Danville and Somerset in the playoffs. So they played 14 head-to-head in the playoffs before tonight. They've each won 7 games. And get this, Danville, as historic as the program has been, it's hard to think that there's something that you could mention Danville football in the same sentence as never having done. But Danville, tonight, has the chance to do something they have never done in the history of their high school football program, and that's win a playoff game at Somerset. Danville is 0-6 all-time in the playoffs at Somerset. Again, there's not many things that you can think Danville football as the program has not accomplished. They have never beaten Somerset on the road. I can give you the years if you want to. They lost at Somerset in 1988, in 2011, in 2012, in 2018, in 2019, and in 2020 in the playoffs. They are 0-6 in those 6 matchups. Now, with that said, that means that overall, the home teams have a really good record at home versus their rival in this series. Danville's 7-1 all-time at home versus Somerset in the playoffs. So just overall, being the home team in this series makes you 13-1. But Danville trying to get that first win at Somerset in the playoffs. Not just that, it's been a long time since Danville has even won a road playoff game. You have to go back 7 years. 2018, the last time Danville won a home playoff game, they beat Leslie County at Leslie County in the first round of the playoffs that year. So technically, you can even go back. They're 0-7 in their last 7 road playoff games. The Somerset Briar Jumper team, of course, is led by head coach Clay Clevenger, who won a state championship as a player at Danville and as a coach at Danville. He really, to be quite honest, helped lead Danville back into a resurgence when he was here as the head coach at the Admirals beginning in 2013. And there was a 3-year period. Oh, how quick people forget. There was a 3-year period where Danville football, 2015, 2016, and 2017, went 30-4 over a 34-game stretch. That includes that 2017 unbeaten season where he went 15-0. It was Danville's first unbeaten season since 1994. Been 27 years since Danville had gone unbeaten before Coach Clevenger led them to a 15-0 season in 1994. Regardless of what side of the Clevenger situation you stand on, there's one thing that is 100% for sure. He is an unbelievable coach. He's a really good coach. I remember when I did Danville football games, play-by-play on the radio, with the late, great Marty Warren. And it seemed like every time Danville was down at the half, the game was close, or they were down, or they were up by a touchdown, or 3 points, or whatever. It seemed like every time Danville would come out in the second half and would just lay the hammer down. And always, I remember talking on the air with this multiple times with Marty. I always felt like that Coach Clevenger was a great coach at halftime and second half adjustments. And his winning mentality is happening at Somerset. You know, one thing that I think makes him really unique in his offensive play calling is he calls his offense based on whatever the strengths he has are. If you remember back in 2013, when he first took over at Danville, they were running the triple option. And he thought that was, maybe this is the best offense for us. And then he realized this quarterback running the triple option, this kid named Zach Dampier, he can throw it a little bit. Then they went to the spread. They realized Zach Dampier can throw the pigskin. They went to what they call the ads raid, and that was when they had DeMarie Van Cleve, and they had Jaleel Warren, and Zach Thornton, and Tanner Ford. They had weapons all over the place, and nobody could stop Danville's offense. They had a kid that could throw it. They had guys that could catch it, and they could run. And then after Dampier graduated, they went kind of back to a run-heavy offense. And they still had some athletes, but they went back to more of a run-heavy offense. And now, with this Somerset team this year, his strengths this year, a big, strong offensive line and a big, strong, fast quarterback. And that's where the offense starts with their quarterback. His name is Chris Hughes. The offense is going to revolve nearly every play around this kid at quarterback, Chris Hughes. Last week, in the first round of the playoffs, he became the all-time leading rusher in the history of Somerset football. He's only thrown 91 passes this year. It's a 75-25 run-pass breakdown. And among their 317 rushing attempts, he runs out of his quarterback position. About 54% of the runs are their quarterback. There wasn't a single year when Clay was at Danville where he ran an offense like this, like direct snap to the quarterback, sometimes student body left, sometimes student body right, but the quarterback doing all the damage. So again, it's an example of him just using the tools and the offense that he has and kind of formatting the offense around what he has. And Chris Hughes, again, he's a phenomenal athlete. And you can't totally key on Chris Hughes. He's going to run it a ton. But again, 47% of the time, he's handing it off. So what they'll do is, for the most part, they're going to keep him in shotgun. He's probably, for the most part, again, going to have a running back either to his left or right side. Running back's name is Corbin Samala. If Hughes keeps it himself, then Samala's blocking for him as well. You get that extra blocker back there because if he hands it off, the quarterback's more than likely not blocking in a running play, right? So if a quarterback keeps it for a running play himself, it's what's called a +1 blocker. You get that extra blocker back there with a running back in the backfield. And that is what gets them a lot of their offensive yards. They get that extra blocker in there. Chris Hughes is hitting the gaps. He's hitting the gaps hard. They have the big bully ball offensive linemen up front as well. They're big, strong, and fast all over the place. And Coach Stonebreaker talked about that earlier this week on the Pigskin Report on Monday.
Well, that's there is an element of student body left, student body right to what they do as far as, they have a quarterback sweep, quarterback wide zone type play that would be similar to that. But he's almost entirely in the gun, and he can hand the ball off to the running back, or they can get a +1 blocker by having him keep the football. So that's why he's in the gun, to try to get a numbers advantage there at the point of attack. So they don't run a ton of plays. They'll run power, they'll run counter, they'll run inside zone duo, and then like I said, they'll run the quarterback sweep. They don't give a lot of sweeps to the running back. They will run some jet sweeps with receivers, but that's their running game in a nutshell, and they've had a lot of success with it. They've executed it at a high level.
Again, what Coach Stonebreaker is saying, they're not pulling a lot of tricks. You know what's coming. The question is, can you stop what's coming? Chris Hughes, direct snap, for the most part, quarterback keeper. Not totally all the time, but for the most part, quarterback keeper. Can you stop Chris Hughes? Can you get him in the backfield? Can you stop him before he's big, he's quick, he gets that downfield, downhill running ability going? Can you stop him before that? To me, when you look at Somerset offensively and what they did last week versus Washington County, that was to me, a perfect example of what Somerset wants to do offensively. They ran 40 plays last week versus Washington County. 30 of them were runs, 10 of them were passes. So again, that mathematically is right at that 75-25 run-pass mark. Chris Hughes ran it 21 times for 190 yards and 4 touchdowns. He only completed 50% of his passes, but he still threw for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. Again, you know what's coming, and then when you think you know what's coming, he's able to hit you with a pass. And because you feel like they're going to run it so much, when they do hit you with a pass, it's usually for a huge gain. Like last week, this season overall, he's averaging 20 yards per completion this season. It's worked to perfection for them this year, this offense has. They've scored 42 or more points in 3 straight games. They've scored 42 or more in 5 of the last 6. They haven't scored less than 5 touchdowns a game since August the 23rd. That's the first game of the season, which they lost. And they haven't lost since then. The offense looks really good with what they run. Defensively for Somerset, they're putting up some impressive numbers as well. And their defense, because the offense looks so good, I think people forget or they don't look at Somerset's defense as good as they are. And they've been the unsung heroes for them. Earlier this year, they had a streak of 5 straight games where they gave up 7 points or less. The last time Somerset football had a streak of at least 5 games, giving up 7 points or less, 1984. So their defense has done something this year that hasn't been done in 41 years. They played well. They're the 5th best defensive team in terms of points per game allowed in Class 2A. The most they gave up in a game this year that they've won is 26, and they still won that game by 19 points. So, that's part of it too. Feel like the offense is so good, it allows the defense to play a little looser, like, hey, if we make a mistake, if they score on us, it doesn't matter because Chris Hughes is going to run for a touchdown anyway. Right? So they're able to play a little bit looser. Now, with all that said, I got to be kind of quick about this because we got the high school fantasy football draft coming up. And I'm going to be as quick as I can and try to make this make sense. When I go into preparing to talk about games, I have, for a lack of a better term, kind of a bias toward one team or the other just based on just like the bare bones looking at what I think is going to happen. And I came in, when I found out that Somerset and Danville were playing, I came in thinking Somerset by 3 touchdowns. However, I started to look at stuff today that made me think that wasn't the case. I even told people earlier this week, I think Somerset's going to win by like 3 touchdowns. And maybe they do. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I started to look at things that made me think I'm not so sure about that prediction. And here's the thing that stuck out to me the most. And this happened today. So I come in with this, what I think's going to happen, and then I start looking at stats. And the stats are either going to prove what I say correctly, or what I think correctly, or what I think incorrectly. And this time the stats, to me, stuck out that, Joe, you're thinking incorrectly. And here's what stuck out to me earlier this afternoon when I changed my mind on that. I think this is the most interesting point. Let's look at Danville's schedule. And look, overall, I think there's this thing that people think that there's this false belief that Danville's as good as they are because they played a little bit of a weaker schedule. And Danville has played a little bit of a weaker schedule, but they should have done that because they needed to get wins to get confidence back in the football program. But I'm not sure that Somerset's schedule is any better than Danville's. Somerset's 10-1. Their 1 loss is to South Laurel, the first game of the year. 1 week before that, Danville scrimmaged South Laurel. And I know it's just a scrimmage. And they lost, I think like the varsity lost to them before they made changes by like 14. Again, it's just a scrimmage. But you have that mutual opponent. But Somerset's schedule this year, they beat East Ridge. Danville's better than East Ridge. They beat Southwestern. And I know Southwestern's 5A, but they were 1-10 this year. Danville's better than Southwestern. They beat Paris. Danville's better than Paris. They beat Greene County. Danville beat Greene County last week. They beat Washington County. Danville beat Washington County earlier this season. They beat McCreary Central. Danville's better than McCreary Central. So I think it's easy to look at Danville's schedule and say, well, they beat a bunch of weak teams or whatever. Danville may seriously be the second best team that Somerset's played this year. And I don't know if you can say that about Somerset. LCA would be the best on Danville's schedule, and I don't know how Somerset and Lincoln County would match up head-to-head. But if Lincoln County's better, then Somerset would be just the third best team on Danville's schedule they played this year. Now, the concerning thing I think about it is that when you look at the mutual scores, Somerset handled Washington County, pulled away in the second half. They handled Greene County pretty easily. No, Danville, Danville struggled a little bit with Washington County scoring and with Greene County as well. Looked like it was going to be a blowout, and then Greene County obviously made it close with a couple of onside kicks. So when you look at the schedule, I just don't know, like, they're going to have, obviously we'll find out in a couple of hours. But Danville comes in, they can play a little bit looser. I think everybody thinks Somerset's going to win. You get the ball to JV and Mukes. You force some turnovers. You're going to have some turnovers. You force some turnovers. JVN, your best player, touches it 25 times tonight, if not more. Get your best player the ball. Who's to say that Danville can't do it tonight? It's going to be a fun matchup. Danville, Somerset at the Briar Patch. We'll see what happens. Gunnar and Tim have the play-by-play call tonight right here on the Hometown Radio Network on 103.9 FM WHIR. We'll step aside, come back. The championship week of the high school fantasy football draft is coming your way right here on the Hometown Radio Network after
this. Resetting your password, unsubscribing from emails, printing anything. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with an auto owner's insurance independent agent, getting the right coverage for your business doesn't have to be one of them, so you can get back to more important things, like learning how that printer works. That's simple human sense.
Ask Dexter and Reitmeyer Insurance Agency in Danville if auto owners make sense for you. Call me, Mark Dexter, or Chris Reitmeyer at 236-6686.
Great! See, we're practically sitting on the field. If you could sit here.
Your food and drinks will be right over.
Oh, yes! For the same price as way up here. Great seats. Right up here with a blimp. Why wouldn't you? It's the same with auto insurance. With discounts up to 40%, it's possible to get the personal service of a State Farm agent for the same or less than those other guys.
See your State Farm agent in Harrisburg, David Hopewell, and Randy Couch.
Hi, I'm Adam Hopkins, security officer at Farmers National Bank, and a current scam is telling people to send cash money through a crypto ATM. No bank will ever tell you to transmit money through a crypto ATM, ever. If in doubt, contact us or local authorities.
Good evening, and welcome to week number 11. Last week was week number 10 of the Danville Office Equipment High School Fantasy Football Draft, also known as Championship Week, where we had 3 teams, all with a chance to win it. Something I don't think that's ever happened in the history of the high school fantasy football draft, and a chance as well for it to come down to a points tiebreaker, which has also never happened in the history of the high school fantasy football draft. So when we build up the suspense, please know that, yes, we're doing this to make you all listen. But at the same time, This has never happened. We never have had a championship week quite like we had last week. Now, Radio Rick is not here, which makes this whole thing weird if Rick wins. He's out on a cruise somewhere in the Caribbean. He left and it snowed on Monday here, so I'm hoping he brings back some better weather. Mr. Packett also said he could not be here. I wish he was here, but he wasn't a contender last week. But Derek hasn't been a contender since week 2, and Derek is here. Derek has no idea who won. Actually, nobody does except me. I've already done all the math and all that. So I was talking with Derek about the situation and who would win what, because Derek wasn't here last week to kind of hear the breakdown. And Derek really has no idea. I said, who do you think will win? And Derek is like, I really don't know. I'll have to listen to find out. I don't even know who I would pick. Matt knows the situation, which we'll go over the situation in just a second. Matt is here. Matt, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good, Joe.
Hey, I appreciate you being in studio.
Why didn't you ask how I was? He just
mentioned
right I was here and just kind of went. Just because I've been last, I'm not
Derek's
important.
Here.
I still have feelings, Joe.
I'm loyal to this show. And then, Derek has no chance. Let's just skip on over to him. How are you, Matt?
Derek, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I bet I don't lose this week. So
you won't, no. So here's the situation, if we can break it down for what we're looking at. Rick has had 2 weeks to clinch the championship. He had 2 weeks ago. He lost, but he was still 1 game up. If he beat Mr. Packett last week, he clinches outright because he would still be 1 game up on whoever wins between me and Matt. But if Rick loses, it comes down to me versus Matt, where the winner of our matchup last week ends up as the high school fantasy football champion by way of what would be a points tiebreaker. We would both have the same record as Rick, but whoever scores the most between me and Matt would have the points tiebreaker over Rick. So we've never had a fantasy football draft come down to a points tiebreaker. We've never had 3 teams with a chance to win it in the final week. It's a season unlike any other. So let's get into it. The high school fantasy football draft. We'll have Derek do it.
He's the leading point scorer as well.
Yeah, well, he was doing well.
For just about the entire year. Way to go, Derek.
So let's get it's brought to you by who, Derek?
Danville Office Equipment.
Why buy at Danville Office Equipment? You will save up to 60% off the MSP on the items you use in your office every day. DOE will ship your order free of charge within 75 miles of any of our locations. We have over 30,000 items, including office supplies, furniture, printing, copiers, printers, fax machines, computers, and business cards. This is owner Scott Bottoms. If you're not satisfied with your order, return it for full credit. We really appreciate your business. Danville Office Equipment, also in Somerset and Lebanon.
All right, again, if Rick wins, it's over. If Rick loses, it's between me and Matt. I feel like we should start off with me and Matt. That way we'll know.
Are we playing each other?
We played each other.
Oh, okay, cool.
And Rick played Mr. Packett.
Yeah, all right.
So let's start off with me and Matt. Then we'll know, okay, whoever wins this is going to be up for a chance against Radio Rick, would win it if Rick loses.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Here we go. Do you all have any idea how you think it went? Derek said he didn't. Matt, do you have any idea?
No clue.
I did hear there could have been some collusion last week.
So
But me and Joe kind of talked. If Packett took a bad first pick or not the best player overall, that helps Rick, right?
Which set Rick up for a better chance to win. So I'm not sure collusion matters in this case because we need Packett to win.
You were accusing Joe of that, from what I heard.
He even said, Joe, why's your Venmo open? Why'd you just get a $5 Venmo from Mr. Packett? Because Mr. Packett had the number 1 overall pick. He took Tucker Foster.
Not
Javian Mukes.
Yes.
But at the same time, we need Packett to beat Rick. We don't want Mr. Packett. So
the thing is, you could beat Rick with 80 points. You might not be able to beat me with 80 points. That's my take.
Well, let's see if you scored 80.
Let's see. Oh, I didn't score 80 based on what he just said.
I didn't say that. I said let's see if you scored 80.
But you're really happy about it. Look at that smile.
Whatever.
Yeah, he is.
You are looking at me grinning. What do you want me to do? All right, let's start off with Team Matt. Or do you want to start off with me? Who do you want to start off with?
I want to start off with Team Matt.
All right.
That's it.
Team Matt's leading scorer last week was Stop looking at me. Y'all are making me You think that you can read my face, but you can't. I got an unreadable face. Nathan Shepman was your leading scorer last week, which typically you'd be like, oh, that's, he's like a backup, but he had a good game last week. 3 catches, 74 yards, a touchdown, 15.4 points.
I need more.
From Nathan Shepman. Need more from others, but you can spread it around a little bit. Dylan Kruger, 137 yards and a touchdown, 12 points. Damon Spiegel, 111 rushing yards, but had his touchdowns poached by Cash Smith last week, who ran for 4 of them himself, but 11.1 points for Damon Spiegel. It's single digits after that. 8.7 for Jacob Sanford. 8 from Danville's defense. 3.1 from Adrian Newell. Chandon Carter got you nothing. And Sasha Wade at the kicker spot. Danville didn't make a single extra point. 58.3.
Tough.
For you, Matt.
Tough.
In championship week, you come out with 58.3.
Yeah.
That's not the performance you want during championship week.
Yeah.
No, that's tough.
And then you turn to my team, which we already know. I took Javian Mukes, my number 2 overall pick. We talked about that because Mr. Packett took Tucker Foster. 208 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 2-point conversion. 32.8 points from Javian Mukes. While that was a big pick, the biggest pick, I feel like, was the fact that it made it all the way through the order and all the way back down before R.J. Blair was taken by me again in the number 8 spot. R.J. ran for 113, 3 touchdowns, 2 catches for 22 yards, 30.5 points. And just from those 2, I've already beaten Team Matt. I got 32.8 from Javian, 30.5 from R.J. Blair. I also got 19 points from Lincoln County's defense, who picked off 5 passes last week versus Perry County Central and had 1 for a touchdown. I got 18.7 from Justin Parsons, the Garrett quarterback. I also had 2 goose eggs like Matt did, but I had 108.7 points last week. Great performance by me during championship week. I eliminate Matt.
Matt, welcome to the loser. Join me and Packett.
How does it feel to look at Derek and see yourself in Derek? It's a mirror image here.
Second place is the first loser. If you're not first, you're last.
Yeah.
What can I say? Congratulations, Joe.
Well, I haven't won anything yet.
Yeah.
You beat me.
I beat you.
And, it's very similar to Kentucky basketball. Every week somebody plays me, beats me. That's their Super Bowl. So, congratulations.
Yeah, we're the gold standard. Everyone always plays the best
right.
against Matt. So I have a chance. Now I've got to hope Mr. Packett can beat Radio Rick. Who do you want me to start off with?
Got to start with Packett.
All right.
Gotta.
The underdog, so to say.
What if you go position by position?
You want to do that?
Yeah, quarterback versus quarterback.
Yeah. Okay, all right, we'll do that. Radio Rick had Jet Raleigh, who threw for 3 touchdowns last week. 22 points. Remember, Mr. Packett took Tucker Foster. 148 passing yards, a touchdown, 22 rushing yards, a touchdown, and picked off 2 passes on defense. 23.2. So there's just...
we got us a close one through
1.2 point difference there. Jaden Smith-Heisel for Radio Rick. 76 rushing yards and a touchdown, 12.6 points. Bubby McPherson for Mr. Packett, who had 2 return touchdowns last week, but nothing else. But got 2 return touchdowns, 5 points each. That's 10 points. So Rick does outscore Mr. Packett. So it's basically dead even through the quarterback and running back. Reed Curlis for Radio Rick. 30 rushing yards. That's it. 3 points. Drake Willoughby for Mr. Packett. Lincoln County's backup. 0 points. Did not record a stat.
Rick's got the edge.
Seneca Driver for Radio Rick. 1 catch, 17 yards, and a touchdown, 7.7 points. Bryce Bob Floyd for Mr. Packett. 4 catches, 56 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks, and a pick 6. 23.6.
Bryce Bob over here.
For Bryce Bob Floyd.
I'm concerned about Boyle's defense for Rick, just because.
Did either of them there's one player that I haven't heard. Cash Smith not get picked?
Cash Smith did not get picked. Look, Lincoln County.
That's who I would have picked, so I would have got all his points.
Yeah, Lincoln County threw us for a loop all year because we never knew who was going to play running back for him week by week.
Yeah. Okay,
now suddenly Cash Smith is back and he runs for 4 touchdowns.
So I have no idea then, because if one of them had Cash Smith, I thought they would win. But
no, Cash Smith was not picked. So Mr. Packett does have about, just rough math, about a 17 or 18 point lead maybe right now through the first 4 positions. Jakeem Ray for Radio Rick. 1 catch, 55 yards, and a touchdown last week. 11.5 points. Gavin Baker for Mr. Packett. 5 receptions, 35 yards, and a fumble recovery. 10.5 points. So now Rick has outscored him by a point there in that. It's close.
Still Packett, but it's close.
Braden Ford For Radio Rick, no rushing yards, no receptions, 0 points. Trendon Sellers for Mr. Packett, 3 catches, 66 yards, and a pick, 11.6 points.
Mr. P.
Coming up.
Just hold on. Wait till we get to the very end. Brody Baker for Radio Rick, 7 extra points, 7 points. Grant Klosterman for Mr. Packett, 7 extra points, and a field goal, 11 points. Seems like Mr. Packett has a pretty comfortable lead.
Can you start off with Packett's? Are we on defense?
We're on defense now.
The last position?
This is the last one.
Can you say Packett's defense first?
Mr. Packett, Garrett County, 43 points allowed and a fumble recovery, -1 point.
Oh, boy.
From Mr. Packett. Rick had Boyle County's defense and special teams. 6 points allowed, 1 fumble recovery, and the 2 Bubby McPherson touchdowns. 19 points. There's a 20-point difference right there between the defenses. So, rough math, who do you think won between Radio Rick and Mr. Packett? If it's Rick, he wins. If it's Mr. Packett, I win.
I'm leaning Packett by like 5 points right now.
I'm going to say the same.
Final score. Radio Rick, 82.8 points. Mr. Packett, 88.9 points. For the 3rd consecutive year, Team Joe has won the high school fantasy football draft. Last year was a 2-peat for the first time ever. This year, a 3-peat for the first time ever. 23, 24, and 25. And it comes down for the first time ever to a total points tiebreaker. Radio Rick and myself both finished 5-3. Mr. Packett was actually the leading scorer this year with 717.5 points. I was behind him by about 9 points behind him at 706.6. Rick had 655.1. He was the lowest scorer out of anybody. So honestly, I know that it's me and I'm glad I won, but I don't want to see the lowest score, regardless of who it is, win the championship. That would be weak.
You guys should really see Joe right now. 2 arms just grew out of his abdomen to pat himself on the back.
I'm doing it.
While he's talking on the radio. Really impressive.
So the total, I guess the standings, first of all, Rick and myself tie at 5-3. Team Matt and Mr. Packett at 4-4. Team Tourism at 2-6 to finish off the year. Total points, Mr. Packett 717.5. I mentioned that. I was 706.6. Team Matt 686.9, 30.6 points behind Mr. Packett.
Pretty close.
Team Tourism 666.2, but did not pick last week.
And I would have got Cash Smith.
And you would have got Cash Smith.
And you would have got Cash Smith.
So I might have been the leading scorer. Yeah. Well, just by default.
If this was rotisserie style scoring, you would have been up there.
Minus, I don't even know what that means. What is rotisserie style scoring?
I've never heard that in a while.
That's more baseball, but it's, you just go week to week. It's not head-to-head matchups.
Yeah, you just like accumulating the scores. Yeah.
Yep.
That is actually how we did the fantasy draft, like the first 3 or 4 years that we did it, going back to 2016. You're
just not in the right time, Derek.
You're past your time. You could have done well back in like the early to mid stages of the fantasy draft. Now, in this new revamped format, you got no chance, Derek. Team Radio Rick 655.1. Here's the official high school fantasy football record book going back to 2015. I've got it typed up here. Mr. Packett was the first ever champion in 2015. It then went me in 2016, Team Matt in 2017, me again in 2018, Radio Rick in 19, Mr. Packett in 20, Radio Rick in 21, Team Matt in 22, Team Joe in 23, Team Joe in 24, Team Joe in 25. I've become, again, a 5-time champion. Mr. Packett's won it twice. Radio Rick twice. Team Matt has won it twice as well. Let's give you some other stats from this year. We do have a new entry into the least team points in a season, and it was Radio Rick, who's 655.1, despite having a chance to win the championship, is the 5th lowest score in the history of fantasy football in a single season. The lowest in 2020, Team Tourism scored 347. However, that was a COVID-shortened season. We only played like 6 or 7 games. We didn't know what we were doing. So it happened. But the real lowest score would have been from 2024, last year, when Radio Rick scored 557.8. So in a full season, that's the lowest score. So, anything y'all want to say to me?
Congratulations. We'll see you next year.
Yeah.
Derek, you have any pleasantries to say to me?
Yeah, I feel like next year's my year. I felt that way coming into this year, but
you got the first-round pick. Can
I draft first overall every week next year and have a chance?
I don't want to keep on piling on Derek, but I did say 2 weeks ago
Well, yeah. So now you are going to foul on. You don't want to, but
I did say 2 weeks ago, though, that Derek has seemed to be in a slump for a number of seasons in a row. So I said, let's go back. I'm going to go back and look at the previous seasons to see what Derek's record is over the last 4 years. Because that was when I think we went to the 5-team format where we play 8 games total and there's 2 byes for each team. Mm-hmm. So 8 games a year, 8 times 4 is 32. Derek has played 32 fantasy games over the last 4 years or so. What do you think Derek's record is in those 32 games, Matt? You got to guess because I've got it written down.
14-18.
Okay, 14-18. Derek, what about you?
20-12.
20-12. That's mathematically impossible.
Okay, 19-13.
Matt said 14-18. You're giving him too much credit, Matt. 10-22 in your last 32 fantasy matchups, Derek.
Ouch.
And I'm really not sure what the problem is, because it's not like, Derek's drafting the same players that we are every week. It's not like we're giving Derek the list in Spanish and he can't read it. I don't know what would cause you to, and even like Radio Rick back-to-back years not doing well.
This year, sheer unluckiness.
Do you
honestly
think the players may be listening and then they know when I get them and they're like, hey, we don't have to give 110% tonight?
I think it'd be more coaches, like
tonight's the night to roll my ankle because Derek picked me.
Yeah,
I'm not going to throw to this player. Derek picked him.
The game plan, the scheme changes when Derek picks a player.
The thing is, my points are competitive this year. It's just who I played.
Yeah, again, like Matt said, this was unlucky for you.
Or maybe the guys who I'm playing, those kids step up every week. They're like, oh, we're playing Team Tourism.
Maybe you are.
You're everybody's Super Bowl.
Yeah. Maybe that's – I think we're onto something.
So there you go. Next week, I feel good about myself for winning the fantasy draft, which I helped create 10 years ago, my own game that I'm doing on my own show.
You're the one that keeps score. You're the one that keeps winning. Huh?
Something's happening here.
Right. Yep.
But next week we'll have the awards show. So we'll pick the quarterback, the running back, the wide receiver, and the defense and special teams and kicker of the year. That'll happen next week. Fellas, I appreciate you joining us to be here for my victory celebration. It meant a lot for you to come out and be a part of this. So we'll see you next week, okay?
Congrats, Joe.
Thank you. More Zaxby's High School Football Preview Show is coming up right here on the Hometown Radio Network.
Zaxby's is more than just a humble chicken joint. It's a humble chicken joint with the best sauces in the world. See, at Zaxby's, you don't just get their famous hand-breaded chicken fingers, fried to golden perfection with that flavor you know and love. At Zaxby's, you get the sauce. Dip, dunk, and drizzle with your choice of 12 different sauces like Zax sauce, tongue torch, and hot honey mustard. So if you want a whole lot of sauce, you need to find yourself a Zaxby's. Who's got the sauce?
Zaxby's.
All right, real quickly, we are a minute away from top hour news. Then we're going to the pregame show at Somerset for Danville Somerset. Gunner and Tim are set up, ready to rock and roll. Keep it right here for that. I said I would mention the Class 2A playoffs. What happens if Danville wins? And I'm going to make it real quick. If Danville wins tonight, same thing with Somerset too, but if we're rooting for Danville, right? If Danville wins tonight, Class 2A is really top-heavy, so I don't see any upsets happening in Danville's side of the bracket. A Danville win tonight, they are more than likely at Owensboro Catholic next Friday. So it'll be a long road trip. Owensboro Catholic, the number 1 ranked RPI team in Class 2A. Danville will be the lowest remaining team left on their side of the bracket. They will be at OCAF next Friday for a quarterfinal game. 7 o'clock in the evening, and Top Hour News is coming your way. Pre-game show is right after that on WHIR.
This is the talk of the town, AM 1230, and now on FM 103.9, WHIR Danville, powered by Kentucky WiMAX.
I'm Jim Roop. Attorney General Pam Bondi's launching an investigation into